They say it all began on a sweltering Thursday afternoon. On that day, little Amara, just 8 years old, trailed a butterfly beyond her family's compound, winding past the village chapel and heading toward the riverside. Nobody noticed she was gone until the screams shattered the stillness. All they found were her tiny sandals, one wedged in the mud, the other floating gently at the edge of Obu waterside. The river was unnaturally calm, as though it were in slumber, but Amara had vanished. Linda was only 28 when she stuffed her whole life into a dusty, gonna-must-go bag and left Abuja behind. She didn't glance back, not at the salon where her boss constantly belittled her, not at the boyfriend who disappeared after 4 years, and certainly not at the so-called friends who only remembered her when they needed free wigs. Abuja is not for me. I'm never coming back, she whispered to herself with renewed determination. She set out for a quiet community known as Obuku Waterside. Life there was affordable and peaceful, at least, on the surface. What no one warned her about was the secret that lay beneath the river's calmness. Peace in Obuku had a cost, and it wasn't one people paid willingly. 2 weeks after settling in, Linda began applying for every job she could find, trying to raise enough funds to open her dream salon. She took a position as a salesgirl in a small provisions store, hawked Accra by the roadside, and even resorted to late-night hookups just to survive. After about a month of grinding, she finally saved up some cash. She was ready to launch her salon, but there was one problem. Shop spaces were outrageously expensive. Her entire budget was just 5,000 Nigerian nairas, barely a fraction of what she needed. Then, one day, her friend Maki told her about an old, abandoned building by the river. No one set foot in there for 10 years, Maki whispered. Linda screamed with joy. Finally. God has remembered me, she exclaimed without hesitation. The very next day, she made her way to the building. Her heart skipped with joy when she stepped inside. The place was old, covered in rust and tangled cobwebs hanging like drapes in every corner, but she didn't care. She spent 5 hours scrubbing and dusting the place down. The following day, she hit the market and bought all the basic equipment she could afford. In just 2 weeks, her dream was alive, her salon was ready. She named it Linda's Heaven. The villagers watched in silent horror as she opened a shop in a place everyone else feared. Linda saw the odd stares but paid no mind. She was certain people would soon pour in, especially since her salon was just by the river, a spot she found peaceful and calming. But the months crawled by, and not a single customer stepped foot inside. Not even a fly. Every day, Linda sat outside, smiling and waving at passers-by, hoping someone, anyone, would walk in. But no one ever did. What's going on? Am I cursed? Why won't anyone come to my salon? She asked her friend Maki. I think it's the location, Maki replied hesitantly. What's wrong with setting up by the riverside? It's beautiful. Peaceful. That's why I didn't hesitate when you told me about the place. Maki sighed. I regret ever mentioning it, Linda. If you want my advice, leave that building. But Linda stood firm. She believed in the promise of the river, in second chances, and most of all, in herself. She turned a blind eye to the cold stares and shut out the whispers. Money was tight. Too tight. Some days, she sucked on a dry Maggi cube to trick her belly into feeling full. On worse days, she would soak Gary in cold river water and pretend it was ice cream. The villagers often said that no business had ever survived near that water. That the river was cursed. But Linda didn't buy into superstition. That is, until the night it rained. She heard a knock on her door. It was strange, she hadn't seen anyone pass by that day. And no one ever visited her salon at night. The rain had just begun to taper off when the knock came again. It was soft, barely audible. Like fingertips brushing against wood. Linda's heart pounded in her chest. Who could possibly be outside at this hour? Another knock. This one firmer. She wanted to ignore it, but something wouldn't let her. Crossing herself 3 times, she muttered silent prayers, then tiptoed toward the door and opened it, just a crack. A woman stood there. Barefoot. Soaked from head to toe. Water dripped from her long hair. She looked human, but there was something off. Something unnerving. Without a word, the woman stepped inside and calmly took a seat in the plastic salon chair. Linda, gripped by fear, tried to keep her voice steady. "Good evening, can I help you?" The woman offered a faint smile. "My name is Dee Dee. I've come to make you rich. I've felt your silent prayers. They echo into places you don't even know exist." Linda blinked. "I don't understand, who are you? Are you here to buy my wigs?" "When the time is right, you'll know who I am," the woman said softly. "All I ask is that you sell my wigs. Keep the money, but sell them." And just like that, she stood and left. Linda ran after her, but Dee Dee was already walking into the river. The water parted like it knew her. Welcomed her. Within seconds, she was gone. Only her hair, floating briefly, marked where she had vanished. The next morning, Linda woke up to find a black nylon bag sitting in front of her salon. Her hands trembled as she picked it up and carried it inside. She opened it slowly. Inside were wigs, dozens of them. All styles. Bouncy curls. Bone straight. Single donor. Double drawn. Every kind of luxury wig she had only seen on influencers. Could these be the wigs she spoke of? Linda whispered. But how could she explain this to Maki? How would she tell anyone where these wigs came from? "What have I gotten myself into?" she muttered. As she stood there, the door knocked again. But this time, it wasn't Dee Dee. It was a young woman with her phone in hand. "Hi. Are you the one doing hair here? I saw your salon on Instagram." Linda froze. Instagram? But I don't even have an Instagram account. Before she could make sense of it, more women began arriving. Then more. By 9 a.m., there was a line forming. Some came from neighboring towns. Others said they skipped work because something pulled them here. The strangest part? None of them could explain how they'd heard of her. Linda stood in stunned silence, heart racing as women filled the space outside her salon. The hunger in her belly and the weight of her unpaid bills silenced any doubts. Without hesitation, she rolled up her sleeves and began braiding. By the time dusk fell, she had completed styles for 5 of the 15 women who showed up. 5 of them also bought wigs, from the strange bag she had received. Each wig sold for 115,000 Nigerian nairas. By day's end, Linda had made over 900,000 Nigerian nairas. She sat on the floor of her tiny shop, staring blankly ahead. Her mouth hung open in disbelief. Should she cry? Should she laugh? Was this truly happening? Is this a blessing, or something else, she thought to herself. She briefly considered taking the money and fleeing, but that night, Dee Dee returned to her dreams. This time, Dee Dee didn't speak much. She simply warned Linda never to abandon the salon. Make it yours. Fix it up. And every morning, you'll find what you need. True to her word, Linda would wake each morning to a black nylon bag waiting at her door, filled with luxurious wigs. Day by day, Linda's heaven became the talk of the town, and beyond. Rumors spread that the shop wasn't just a beauty parlor. Some whispered that it was a sanctuary, where people rediscovered lost joy. Women walked in broken, weary, hollow. But they left glowing, confident and radiant. One particularly shy girl, known for barely uttering a word, left the shop dancing, filming herself with newfound pride. Another customer gazed into the mirror after a wig installation and cried out, "I feel so powerful." What was once a forgotten, dusty corner of the community suddenly became its hottest destination, perhaps the most famous salon in the entire state. Yet Linda remained confused. None of it made sense, but she liked it. With the money rolling in, she renovated the entire building. Fresh paint. New chairs. Air conditioning. Modern styling equipment. She even began hiring staff. The same women who used to avoid her shop now lined up for appointments. Linda finally launched an Instagram page. The photos of her styles and wigs quickly went viral. Orders came in from other towns. Even across state borders. When Maki, her friend, asked about her incredible transformation, Linda lied. "It's my uncle in Canada. He sent me startup funds." But soon, odd stories began to emerge. And they all pointed back to her wigs. It began with Amy, a single mother with no job, no income, and endless rejection letters from grant programs. She wore one of Linda's wigs to a wedding. The very next day, she received an unexpected grant, $5,000 from a foreign agency to fund a food business she had long abandoned. Then there was Igioma, a woman who had struggled with infertility for over 5 years. 2 days after buying a wig from Linda, she found out she was pregnant. Next came Boma, a quiet university girl who kept to herself. She purchased a sleek black wig from Linda, wore it in a short TikTok video, and the next morning, she woke up to 1 million views, and a brand deal. Her followers even began calling her the mermaid body. None of the women could explain the timing of their good fortune. All they knew was that everything began to change after wearing a wig from Linda's heaven. Linda herself couldn't believe the messages flooding her inbox, stories of transformation, recovery, hope. "I guess I'm just lucky," she told herself. "Maybe God finally remembered me." But sometimes, late at night, doubts crept in. She would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, asking silently, "Why are these wigs doing this? And who really is Didi?" She wasn't the only one watching. Every morning, Mama Alake, an elderly woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a Bible always by her side, would set up her puff-puff table just a few feet from Linda's salon. Her late husband had called her the village prophetess. While she laughed at the name, her gaze missed nothing. She noticed the strange increase in women visiting the salon, women who didn't belong to the community. She noticed the wigs, too perfect, too glossy, too unreal. She also noticed her goats, Bissy and Ola, suddenly refusing to walk past Linda's shop. No matter how hard she tried to pull them, the animals resisted, snorting, kicking, yanking their leashes. Then, one night, Mama Alake had a dream. In the dream, Linda was styling someone's hair, but it wasn't a person in the chair. It was a shadow. The room was filled with these shadowy clients, all with bulging eyes and hair that writhed like serpents. The mirror reflected not faces, but flowing water. The next morning, Mama Alake marched to Linda's salon and spoke gently. "My daughter," she began, "I don't know what spirit gave you this gift, but listen closely, when God gives, it moves slowly. But when the river gives, it drowns you in favor first, then pulls your legs under." Linda smiled politely. "Mama, business is just finally picking up." But her stomach churned. She couldn't explain why her hands trembled each time she touched a new wig from Didi. Then came another night, this time with a storm. Around 9 p.m., thunder growled across the sky, and rain pounded on her roof like angry fists. Lightning painted the room in flickers of white-blue light. Linda sat huddled with a mug of hot tea in her hands, trying to steady her breathing. Lately, her dreams had grown darker, rivers inside mirrors, voices whispering in her ears, wigs that moved on their own. She tried to ignore them. Then, a knock. Her entire body froze. "No one should be outside in this weather," she muttered, heart slamming in her chest. Slowly, with shaking hands, she approached the door and opened it. There stood Didi. Still barefoot. Still drenched. But calm, as always. "Do you like what you've become?" Didi asked softly. Linda hesitated, then smiled nervously. Yes. I do. Dee entered the room and placed a shimmering golden box on the table. These wigs are different, she said. They are for those seeking immediate breakthroughs. Linda knelt beside the box and opened it slowly. The contents inside didn't look normal. The wigs faintly glowed, like candlelight trapped in strands of hair. One had a purple flame dancing on its tips. Another looked like it was woven from mist. Linda's fingers trembled. I don't know if I should keep doing this, she whispered. Dee's smile vanished. Her voice grew stern. Then reject the gift. But if you do, the river will take more than just this. With that, Dee turned and disappeared. Linda sat motionless on the floor, trembling. She knew then, this wasn't just a gift. It was a pact. A deal she had unknowingly signed, and there was no backing out now. The following day, Linda did what she swore she wouldn't, she posted the new wigs online. She listed them at outrageous prices and wrote in the captions, for those seeking transformation, fast. Within minutes, orders flooded in. But 3 days later, the world around her shifted again, violently. Nancy Blue, a popular Instagram influencer and one of Linda's newest clients, was found lifeless in her apartment. The wig was still on her head. Authorities were baffled. There were no signs of trauma, no forced entry, no visible injuries. But the autopsy revealed something chilling. Her lungs were filled with water. The official report claimed she had drowned, yet there was no bathtub, no sink overflow, no water anywhere in her apartment. It made no logical sense. On the other side of town, Linda's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Some callers were weeping in fear, others were begging for the same wig Nancy had worn. Linda sat in her salon, her body trembling, breath shallow, hands cold and clammy. That night, as thunder rumbled overhead and rain slashed through the sky, she grabbed the golden box, ran into the storm, and hurled it into the river. "Take your things and leave me alone," she cried, her voice cracking under the weight of fear and regret. But the next morning, the box was back. It sat neatly on her salon table, dry and untouched, like it had never left. That's when Linda understood. There was no escape. On the outside, she had everything: money, influence, a booming business. People booked her salon months in advance. Clients flew in from other states. Some even crossed borders just to sit in her chair. Brands sent offers. Magazines wanted interviews. Online, she was dubbed the hair healer. But inside, she was falling apart. Every time she touched one of Dee's wigs, her fingers tingled and went numb. At night, her dreams turned into vivid nightmares. She would see faceless women combing their hair with bone-crafted brushes, humming strange lullabies in languages she couldn't understand. When she woke, the echoes still rang in her ears. Sometimes, she dreamed her entire salon sank beneath the river, water swallowing everything: chairs, mirrors, clients, until all that remained was silence and hair floating like weeds. And yet, despite the fear, she couldn't walk away. Not now. She was too far in. The guilt ate away at her. Some days she told herself it was just superstition. Other days, she admitted what she didn't dare say aloud: this was no ordinary business. Then, one quiet morning, Dee returned. But this time, she carried a silver box. It gleamed faintly like moonlight trapped in metal. Inside was just one wig. Resting on top of it was a folded note. Linda's fingers trembled as she unfolded the paper. The message read: "This wig is for you. Only you can wear it." Linda stared at the box for a long time. Her breathing shallow. Her mind clouded. Then, slowly, as if guided by something unseen, she picked up the wig and placed it on her head. The moment the strands touched her scalp, her entire body locked up. Her spine arched. Her eyes rolled back. Her lungs gasped for air. Her mind exploded like a dam, flooded by a storm of visions. She was no longer in her salon. In the vision, she saw Didi, screaming, being dragged through the village by a mob. The community people cursed and shouted as they pulled her toward the river. She struggled and cried until they hurled her into the water. Linda gasped as the scene shifted. Now she saw her salon, but not how it looked in real life. It was submerged. Deep underwater. Silent. Still. Inside were dozens of ghostly women, sitting in slow motion. Their hair floated around them like seaweed. Their faces were blank. Their mouths open as though singing, but no sound came out. Linda reached up, trying to remove the wig, but it wouldn't budge. Then she looked at her reflection. The mirror didn't show her face. It showed something else. Her eyes were no longer human. They were round. Cold. Empty. Fish eyes. She stumbled back, heart thudding violently. Her knees buckled. Her skin turned clammy. The walls spun around her. But then. She smiled. A strange, hollow, unnatural smile. Whatever she had become, whatever price she had paid. It was worth it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned. Part 2 is coming.